Unexpected twist, she takes the wrong luggage revealed. The billionaire who remembers her SCNT. Sarah clutched her boarding pass like a lifeline, heart racing with anticipation as she entered the terminal, visions of a brighter future swirling in her mind. She had dreams of transforming her classroom, of inspiring her students, and most importantly, of providing a better life for her 2 children. This educational conference in New York could be her launchpad. But as the flight began its descent, her excitement clashed with the reality of mounting bills, and the fear of failing as both a teacher and a mother loomed large. She inhaled deeply, seeking a moment of calm amid the chaos. The bustling atmosphere of LaGuardia bathed Sarah in a flood of anxiety. Time slipped through her fingers like sand as she rushed through the airport, double-checking her itinerary. She was already late for check-in when she grimly snatched up a luxurious garment bag that caught her eye. It felt like a lucky omen, its elegant exterior contrasting sharply with her worries. Racing toward her hotel, that fleeting escape became her talisman of hope. But as she flung open the door and delved into the contents, her heart sank. "This isn't mine," she gasped, panic constricting her chest. How could she fix this? Her unease intensified. Not only did she have to return to the airport, but she also had to ensure that bills remained paid, homework was completed, and her children felt prioritized in their mother's chaotic life. The thought of approaching the owners of the suitcase triggered a knot of fear. Who was he? What would they think? She realized she needed to call him, spilling clumsy apologies mixed with embarrassment that grated on her nerves. "Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. When she finally found Nathaniel, the reclusive billionaire, waiting with a mix of curiosity and disbelief, their worlds collided in a flurry of emotions. Her casual, earnest demeanor contrasted sharply against his pristine, detached poise. The air between them crackled with tension that sent waves of unease through Sarah, reminding her of societal divides sketched out in the stark lines of their lives. And yet, she found herself sharing her challenges, her job, her dreams, a glimpse into the daily battle of a single mother. He listened, still and thoughtful, the scent from her jacket wafting amidst mingling nostalgia that flickered through Nathaniel's heart. Could she remind him of what it meant to genuinely connect? But just as her vulnerability began to shine light on his solitude, shadows from his past stirred, threatening to engulf them both. The growing mix of hope and dread twisted in her gut as she faced the incomprehensible. Would Nathaniel's world of privilege stand in the way of an unexpected friendship, or would their connection be sacrificed on the altar of financial obligation and unyielding expectations? With the weight of the moment pressing on her, Sarah pondered her choices. As the tension heightened, she instinctively knew that whatever lay ahead, it would send ripples through their lives, forcing them both to confront deeply embedded beliefs about worth and connection in this dizzying merge of worlds. As the meeting with Nathaniel lingered in her thoughts, Sarah stood at the edge of a yawning decision. The conference stretched before her, promising new insights and networks that could improve her teaching methods and ultimately benefit her students. Yet, here she was, distracted and burdened by an unforeseen entanglement. For a fleeting moment, she envisioned her career flourishing, igniting her ambition, but then his presence transformed her aspirations into something more complicated. What if all he saw was a struggling mother, a teacher scrounging for help? That notion weighed heavily on her, undermining her confidence. The truths she had shared with Nathaniel felt raw and exposed, presenting a dual vulnerability, his to her plight, her to his privilege. An internal dialogue erupted within her. She could shrug off this encounter, return to her conference, and dream alone of a better life. Or, perhaps, this billionaire held keys to connections or funding she had yet to comprehend. Her thoughts wandered as she approached her hotel room, mind racing. If she truly wanted to elevate her career, perhaps Nathaniel could be more than an accidental association. he could be her unexpected ally. Swiftly, she made a decision she would reach out the following morning. The thought both thrilled and terrified her. Lying awake that night, Sarah replayed the day in her mind, searching for hidden meanings in their exchanges. He had listened intently, almost as though her words bore weight. A wave of determination surged through her. Ignoring the nagging voice of doubt, she resolved to prepare a brief email, not just an apology, but an invitation to further discussion about education, her projects, and her relentless pursuit of transformation within her classroom. This could be a bridge to a new beginning, a way to align their disparate lives for a common cause, but when dawn broke, she hesitated before her laptop. The delightful possibility of guidance wrestled with the bitter taste of her insecurity. Who was she to ask for anything from him? She wrestled with the value of her own experiences. Each moment spent doubting chipped away at her confidence. This was not just about her, it was about inspiring her students, showing them that ambition blossomed from hard realities. Compelled by that thought, Sarah began typing, channeling her passion and urgency. She penned a compelling narrative about her classroom challenges, her dreams for the kids, and how she believed in the potential for change when one person takes action. With each click of her keyboard, she felt the barriers of her self-doubt crumble, revealing a profound conviction that this connection could teach her more than she could imagine. When she hit send, a surprising wave of relief washed over her, followed by an anxiety that made her stomach twist. What if his response was dismissive? What if he simply viewed her as another aimless mother hoping to seize a thrifty opportunity? Yet, as fear attempted to creep back in, she reminded herself of her mission: to advocate for her students, to value education, and to seek out the connections that could uplift them. The day unfolded, filled with sessions and new ideas, but her consciousness frequently strayed to her email, anxious for a reply. As the hours ticked by, anticipation bubbled within her. Perhaps Nathaniel held a surprise in store, an imminent response that could change everything. But when evening approached and her inbox remained unchanged, doubt clawed its way in once again. Had she been foolish to reach out? Just as she began to drown under self-recrimination, her phone buzzed, cutting through her turmoil like a sharp knife. With trembling hands, she picked it up, heart pounding. The notification read, "New message from Nathaniel." In that moment, everything stood still, and she realized she had crossed a threshold into uncharted territory. Would this message hold the key to her aspirations, or would it deepen the rift she was trying to bridge? She hesitated, breath catching in her throat, before she swiped to open it. Her heart raced as the email opened, revealing Nathaniel's composed yet warm words. "Thank you for your honesty, Sarah. I'd love to talk more about your ideas." It was an invitation, one that sent her emotions careening between exhilaration and anxiety. This wasn't merely a polite response, it was a pathway opened. As the screen's glow illuminated her face, Sarah could hardly believe the swift course of events. For the first time in a long while, her aspirations felt tangible. She resolved to meet with Nathaniel, not as a subordinate, but as a professional determined to advocate for her students. In the days that followed, she immersed herself in preparation. Each session at the conference became a tool, a chance to refine her presentation skills and articulate her vision for education. As she delved into discussions, the lack of experience was no longer a source of fear. Instead, it drove her to embrace her voice. Each interaction reinforced her belief that her perspective as a teacher and mother carried weight, had purpose. Yet, despite these empowering moments, the anxiety about the meeting loomed large. What would she reveal about herself? Would Nathaniel's casual demeanor mask his underlying judgment? She grappled with potential scenarios, each more terrifying than the last. Each time she rehearsed her pitch in the mirror, the doubt whispered yet again who would truly take her seriously. Nevertheless, there was a flicker of determination igniting within her. This meeting could be pivotal not just for her but for the countless students she sought to inspire. If Nathaniel was as influential as she suspected, he could help open doors to resources, ideas, and perhaps relationships that could reinvigorate her classroom. The day arrived, and Sarah approached the cafe where they had agreed to meet. The site buzzed with energy, but her mind was a whirlpool of thoughts. As she stepped inside, the overwhelming aroma of roasted coffee enveloped her, and an urge to step back crept in. She shook it off and sat at a corner table, determined to anchor herself to the moment. Minutes later, Nathaniel arrived, his presence commanding yet approachable. A tight smile exchanged as they settled into conversation. The initial small talk faded, leading to the heart of the matter. Sarah took a deep breath, presenting her project, her vision, and the stories of her students. With each word, her confidence unraveled like a tightly wound coil, and she found herself riding a wave of passionate conviction. To her surprise, Nathaniel engaged deeply, querying her experiences and the hurdles her students faced. He shared insights from his own past connections that resonated with her struggles. Their dialogue flowed, evidenced by nods and lean-ins as ideas sparked and branched out between them, but as the conversation progressed, Nathaniel's gaze sharpened. He prodded deeper into the realities of education funding, the politics of reform, and her strategies to implement impactful changes. It was in that moment her vulnerability began to claw back. Was she revealing too much? Would her ambition falter under scrutiny? Yet, instead of retreating, she pressed on, fueled by a sense of emerging competence that perhaps had always lingered beneath the surface. Sarah instinctively navigated their dialogue, adapting her responses to fit the ebb and flow of his interest, allowing her instinct to take over. As the conversation concluded, both felt a palpable charge, a mutual respect forged from authenticity and ambition. Parting ways, Nathaniel promised to explore how he could support her mission. Her heart raced not with fear this time, but exhilaration. However, the exhilaration was quickly eclipsed by doubt once again. Did she truly have what it took to turn this chance encounter into lasting change? As she walked away, a message notification from Nathaniel chimed into her phone. She stared at it, fingers trembling, knowing that within that electronic envelope lay either a foundation for her ambitions or another challenge to confront. Would this message be a stepping stone, or were the hurdles just beginning? The uncertainty of the moment weighed heavily on Sarah as she tapped the notification, her heart pounding in sync with each pulse of apprehension. What if the message contained a caveat, a polite dismissal that would undo the thrill of their earlier conversation? Gathering her resolve, she opened the email. The words unfolded before her, revealing an invitation to collaborate on a small project related to educational reform, a pilot program exploring innovative teaching methods. The brief message was concise yet charged with potential. They would schedule a call to arrange the details. An undercurrent of excitement surged within her, accompanied by a whisper of disbelief. This was the moment she had been working towards, the validation of her voice, but then doubt crept in. Was this merely a small project, or was Nathaniel testing her capabilities? She couldn't shake the feeling of inadequacy. Yes, she had garnered attention, but how long until the reality of her experience became apparent? Determined to convert her anxiety into action, Sarah began her research. She spent every spare hour dissecting education models, case studies, and strategies from successful programs across the country. Each discovery was like a puzzle piece fitting into her ambitions. She wrestled with terminology, methodologies, budget constraints, and the myriad of obstacles looming on the horizon. As the days passed, she found her stride, allowing her passion for teaching to mold her proposal into a definitive vision. The importance of innovative solutions for her students drove her late into the night. Yet, the fear of failing this unexpected opportunity simmered beneath her growing confidence. On the night before their scheduled call, Sarah looked at her reflection with newfound determination. The woman staring back was not the self-doubting teacher she had been weeks ago, she was a leader with a purpose. As the clock ticked closer to the call, however, doubt bubbled to the surface again. Could she articulate her ideas effectively? Would Nathaniel see her as someone worthy of his time, or merely as a fleeting moment in his larger agenda? When the call finally connected, she took a deep breath, steadying herself as Nathaniel's image appeared. His familiar smile immediately eased some tension, yet his keen eyes felt as if they were probing, searching for the depth of her resolve. Sarah, I'm thrilled to see how passionate you are about this project, he began. I see potential here, not just for the program but for your career. What ideas do you have in mind? As she began to speak, her words flowed more easily than she expected. Each algorithm of pedagogy, each anecdote from her classroom came together, painting a vibrant picture of her vision. The ease of dialogue surprised her, but in the back of her mind stood the fear that she was outpacing her preparation. Would Nathaniel press her for answers to questions she hadn't fully anticipated? Halfway through their discussion, he posed a question that halted her progress. What's your strategy for resistance? You know change doesn't come without pushback. Her heart raced at his words, and the impetus of hesitation crept in. Could she concede a gap in her strategy, admit to her uncertainty? The moment stretched out, amplifying her thoughts. Gathering the fragments of her courage, she replied, I believe that transparency and open dialogue with all stakeholders will be vital. Resistance can often stem from misunderstanding, and I'd like to address those head-on. Together, we can forge understanding through involvement. The shift in Nathaniel's demeanor gave her hope. His nodding frame suggested he was not merely listening, but absorbing and processing her ideas. As they continued to delve deeper, she recognized that this was no longer merely about presenting her vision. It was a conversation, a collaboration between equals, solidifying a professional relationship. As the call concluded, Nathaniel expressed enthusiasm for her proposals and emphasized the importance of building a coalition of supporters. Your passion is contagious, Sarah. I see a future with you leading these initiatives. But before she could bask in his praise, a new thread of anxiety weaved through her thoughts. Leading these initiatives meant embracing vulnerability on a larger scale, and she had yet to fathom the depths of her capabilities. Thank you for your encouragement, she said, concluding their conversation. I'm excited to take the next steps. As she hung up, she couldn't shake the certainty that what lay ahead was both an opportunity and a formidable challenge. The path she aspired to traverse had just widened, but was she truly ready to walk it? An errant thought stole through her mind. What if this was a fleeting moment and the next invite was a test she wasn't ready for? But deep down, another part of her whispered that she had only begun to scratch the surface of her potential. She resolved to not let fear spiral her into indecision. Tomorrow, she would draft an action plan, a manifesto of sorts to tackle her next steps with clarity and focus. As she settled into bed, her phone pinged again, a notification from Nathaniel that prompted a rush of excitement. Would there be further plans? Or had she overlooked something crucial in their discussion? The tangled web of ambition and doubt wrapped around her once more, as she pondered, was she boldly stepping into her future, or was she merely standing on the precipice of a larger downfall? Morning light seeped through the curtains, casting a soft glow that pulled Sarah from restless dreams. She absorbed the sun's warmth, feeling both revitalized and anxious. Today held the potential to define her trajectory, yet unresolved doubts lingered like shadows. She brewed coffee while replaying her conversation with Nathaniel in her mind. Each detail echoed his encouraging words, the questions he posed, and the implicit faith he placed in her. But alongside that excitement, an unsettling feeling brewed within her. What if she didn't have the answers when it mattered, or worse, what if she stumbled in front of him? Framing her thoughts, she settled at her desk, a formidable mound of notes, books, and digital research surrounding her. Her action plan was not just a list, it needed to be a reflection of both her vision and her capabilities. She began typing, allowing her fingers to move freely, translating ideas into a coherent design for the pilot program. Each header, bullet point, and paragraph represented a step towards something vital, concrete, a mission born from her years of teaching. As the hours passed, she felt a rhythm establish itself. Her hands navigated the keyboard almost intuitively, breaking down complex methodologies into digestible formats. But as she neared completion, the pervading fear returned, whispering doubts that threatened to suffocate her progress. What if the collaborators or stakeholders she had yet to meet were hostile to her ideas? What if she faced criticism not from a place of constructive challenge, but malicious scrutiny? A persistent tapping sound broke her concentration, a reminder that the world continued around her. She checked her phone, heart racing. A message from Nathaniel: "Looking forward to your action plan, Sarah. Let's discuss this further tomorrow afternoon." The anticipation and dread collided in her chest. Tomorrow was approaching much faster than she imagined. Taking a deep breath, she decided to reach out to a mentor, a colleague she admired for her ability to navigate institutional politics. Jody's insights had often combed away Sarah's uncertainties. With a few swift taps, she sent an invitation to meet for lunch, framing it as a chance to catch up but secretly hoping to probe her mentor for advice. The immediate sense of relief in reaching out quickly faded. Jody, though supportive, was always realistic. Would she serve as a voice of encouragement, or would she instead remind Sarah of the stakes involved? The chilling reality of vulnerability settled back over her as Sarah reflected on her very position. Seeking guidance felt like an admission of uncertainty, the very thing she tried to combat. A knock at the door broke her thoughts. It was Kira, her closest friend and confidant, who sensed her tension from the moment she entered. "You've been cooped up in here. Let's take a walk. Fresh air will do you good. You're overthinking it," she said, placing a hand on Sarah's back. Reluctant but aware of the rising tension within her, Sarah complied. They walked through the nearby park, where the laughter of children and the rustle of leaves felt like reminders of what she was striving to improve. Kira listened as Sarah expressed her fears about the upcoming meeting, about the weight of expectations that felt heavier with each passing moment. "Sarah," Kira finally said, "you've been preparing for this for a long time. You're more than capable. What's the worst that could happen?" The question hung in the air, challenging Sarah to confront her own doubts. Could she reframe this anxiety into a learning opportunity, rather than a precipice of failure? "I could fail to convey my ideas and be dismissed," she murmured. "Sure, that's a possibility. But failure is also a stepping stone. What you have to offer is valid, and you need to allow yourself the grace to be human," Kira gently challenged. As they wandered back home, Sarah felt a flicker of resilience ignite within her. Perhaps she was not merely on the verge of failing but standing before beginnings that demanded not just strength, but a willingness to be imperfect. That night, there would be no more agonizing over every word. No second-guessing her ideas because they were born of genuine experience and passion. She resolved to embrace her limitations alongside her growth. The weight of anticipation darkened her dreams once more, but this time, it was laced with a burgeoning hope. Tomorrow was more than just an appointment. It was a gateway to amplifying her voice in a climate yearning for change. As she turned off the lights, a final notification pinged from her phone. Nathaniel's name flashed on the screen. His message was brief but tantalizing: "I want to discuss your approach to the critical phase of implementation." With a mix of dread and enthusiasm, Sarah wondered what awaited her. Was this a test of her preparation or the breakthrough she craved? The crisp morning air greeted Sarah as she stepped out, the familiar weight of her action plan tucked securely in her bag. Today felt different, a cocktail of resolve and anticipation coursed through her veins. She had never felt so clear about her intentions, yet the reminder of Nathaniel's expectation hung heavily in her mind. She arrived at the cafe first, opting for a quiet corner where she could collect her thoughts. The subtle aroma of roasted coffee filled her senses, momentarily easing her nerves. As she waited for Nathaniel, she opened her laptop, scanning her notes one last time. She was determined to present with confidence, a striking contrast to the trepidation that gripped her yesterday. When Nathaniel finally arrived, his presence seemed to ignite the atmosphere. He offered a warm smile, settling into the chair across from her. "I've been eager to hear what you've been working on," he began, his eyes not just searching, but inviting. Sarah swallowed her uncertainties, feeling a spark of determination. "Thank you for meeting with me. I've put together a preliminary action plan that outlines the pilot program's structure, objectives, and implementation phases." Her voice trembled slightly yet remained steady, reflecting the earnestness of her purpose. they dove into discussion, and Sarah found clarity in her explanations. She articulated her vision, carefully detailing how her experiences as a teacher had shaped this initiative. Within moments, the tension that had rooted itself in her chest began to dissolve, replaced with a growing belief in her ability to lead this charge. But just as the conversation flowed smoothly, Nathaniel shifted his tone, probing deeper. How do you plan to handle pushback from those resistant to change? A distinct chill swept through her. The prospect of facing resistance hadn't truly settled in until now. Clarity suddenly clouded with questions. What if her ideas weren't embraced? Could she withstand the critique that would inevitably come from the establishment? I think it's crucial to create dialogue rather than a confrontation, she stumbled, trying to articulate her thoughts. Fostering an environment where stakeholders feel heard and understood needs to come before implementation. If they can see the potential in what we're presenting, maybe they'll be more willing to collaborate. Nathaniel nodded, his expression contemplative. That's a strong approach. But you need to be prepared for harsher realities, too. You have the expertise now, you must cultivate the authority that commands respect. As the conversation deepened, Sarah felt a distinct shift within her. Instead of recoiling from uncertainty, she began to accept it as an integral part of her journey. She realized that every successful leader faced roadblocks, hers were just the beginning, a necessary phase of her evolution. Thank you for the insight, Nathaniel. It clarifies the need for a strategic communication plan, adapting to different audiences while still being unwavering in our core principles. Her words carried a newfound weight. She was discovering the power of adaptability and resolve, the pillars of leadership she had yet to fully embrace. They wrapped up the meeting, and Nathaniel's closing remarks left an imprint on her psyche. Your vision is ambitious, but know that growth often necessitates a bit of discomfort. You're on the right path. Feeling more empowered than ever, Sarah stepped outside, the world alive with incredible possibilities. But wrapped in her fervor was an unsettling thought, the looming challenges of implementation, along with newfound responsibilities and expectations that were now hers to navigate. Amidst this whirlwind of breakthroughs, her phone buzzed again. It was a message from Jody. Let us meet tomorrow, there's something important I need to discuss. Sarah's heart hitched. Why did the words feel like a prelude to a storm? Would Jody bring clarity or confusion in this moment of her burgeoning ascent? An internal conflict stirred within her. What if the conversations ahead disrupted her fledgling confidence? Determined to confront whatever was coming, Sarah steeled herself for the unknown. One thing was clear, the journey was just beginning, and the time had come to embrace all facets of her path, including the unexpected challenges that lay ahead. The next morning dawned with the sun casting a serene glow, but Sarah's insides churned with uncertainty. The anticipation of her meeting with Jody weighed heavily on her as she prepared for the day. Showering, she caught glimpses of herself in the mirror, her reflection revealing a woman determined yet quietly fearful. Was she ready for whatever news Jody had to share? As she stood at the bus stop, Sarah replayed her discussion with Nathaniel and the subtle implications behind his words. Cultivating authority wasn't just about knowledge, it required her to embody a sense of conviction that often felt foreign. She took a deep breath, reminding herself that setbacks and growth were part of the journey. It was time to confront her doubts head-on. Arriving at the cafe where she and Jody agreed to meet, the atmosphere was buzzing with activity. Customers engaged in lively conversation, the clinking of cups serving as an inconspicuous backdrop to her racing thoughts. Sarah chose a small table near the window, taking a moment to gather her composure. Could she lean on her friend for support, or was this conversation meant to intertwine her fate with the unknown? Jody arrived promptly, her face a canvas of mixed emotions. Her brows furrowed as she approached, and Sarah felt a ripple of unease wash over her. "Hi, Sarah," Jody greeted, though her demeanor lacked the usual spark. She lowered her voice slightly. "We need to talk." Sarah gestured for her to sit, dread coiling in her stomach. "What is going on?" she asked, concern threading through her words. Jody hesitated as if grappling with her own fears. Things have shifted at the district. I heard whispers about potential cuts. Your pilot program might be impacted. I think you should prepare yourself for the possibility of pushback from the administration. An icy wave crashed over Sarah, wrapping her in an unyielding grip of tension. What do you mean? Are they considering pulling the funding? Jody nodded slowly. I can't say it's final, but I overheard conversations that made it clear they're not supportive of any new programs right now. They want to maintain the status quo. The weight of Jody's news felt like a lead blanket, suffocating her ambition. Sarah's mind raced with implications. Was she ready to face the criticisms and reinforce the value of her vision against this potential opposition? We can't afford to lose momentum now, she pressed, desperation infusing her tone. I have to advocate for the program. There must be a way to navigate through this. I believe in what you're doing, Sarah, Jody reassured her, albeit uncertain. But you need to prepare for a confrontation. Consider how to package your vision to highlight its necessity in a climate where change is seen as a threat. Fortified determination ignited within her as Jody's warning sank in. This was her moment to embody everything Nathaniel had encouraged. She couldn't retreat, she had to adapt and assert herself while embracing discomfort. You're right. I can't let fear dictate my choices. I need to create a robust strategy and proactively communicate the value of this program. Jody's eyes widened. That's the spirit. I see the fire in you. Just remember, expect resistance and be ready to engage methodically. The administration might underestimate the gravity of your proposal, but you can turn that into your advantage. As they continued to discuss potential strategies, a glimmer of confidence began to seep into Sarah's psyche. A newfound resilience emerged within her, fueled by the urgency of the circumstances. She could forge ahead and face this challenge with determination. However, amidst her determination lay a lingering thought. If the winds of resistance were already swirling, how would she secure the support she needed? Stepping into this battlefield would require not just momentum, but calculated strategies to sway the skeptics in her favor. As they concluded their conversation, an insistent confidence began to anchor itself in Sarah's mind. I need to approach this as Nathaniel advised, combat your doubts with clarity and intent. My vision deserves to occupy center stage, and I will not be silenced. But as she walked home, still buoyed by a semblance of clarity, she received another notification on her phone. An email from the district office, urgent and marked with the subject line, upcoming decisions affecting program funding. Sarah hesitated, her heart racing as trepidation crept back in. Was this communication a precursor to further complications? Or could it possibly be an opportunity to aggressively position her plans before any decision was made? The uncertainty engrossed her as she took a moment to decide her next step. The battle lines were drawn, and the fight for her dream was just beginning. Would she confront the hurdles before her with wisdom, or would the obstacles unravel her resolve? The email sat like a ticking clock on her phone, demanding her attention yet filling her with hesitation. With her fingers trembling, Sarah opened it. The message was succinct, announcing an imminent meeting concerning the future of her pilot program. Details were scant, but the urgency was unmistakable. The pressure mounted, and with it, her resolve hardened. As she paced her small apartment, thoughts swirled through her mind like leaves in a storm. Time was not on her side, and each second felt like it was stretching into eternity. She needed to approach this meeting with precision. Jody's words echoed in her mind, reminding her to present her vision with clarity and strength. Yet she felt the familiar prickle of doubt whispering in the back of her head, what if it wasn't enough? Determined to transform her apprehension into actionable steps, Sarah pulled out a notepad and started outlining her strategy. She needed to collect data demonstrating the effectiveness of her program's initial phases, statistics that could sway even the most skeptical of administrators. Researching success stories from similar programs began to feel less like a chore and more like a lifeline. Every fact she gathered felt like a building block, constructing a fortress around her ideas. The more she delved into her preparation, the more empowered she felt. It was invigorating to confront her fears with knowledge, to transform vague trepidation into tangible strategies. Yet, the gnawing anxiety returned. What if the numbers did not speak loudly enough? What if the decision-makers remained entrenched in their resistance to change? With each new insight, Sarah's confidence began to flourish. She envisioned her presentation, imagined her words finding resonance with the powers that be, and fantasized about the approving nods of colleagues. Yet, as bright as these images were, they could not drown out the doubts lurking in the corners of her mind. They crept back in, asking her if she was truly prepared to face the scrutiny and skepticism that was sure to come. The night before the meeting, as exhaustion weighed heavy on her eyelids, Sarah found herself staring at the ceiling, replaying her rehearsed pitch over and over. Could she convey her message with conviction? Would she be able to respond effectively to potential challenges? In a desperate attempt to find clarity, Sarah reluctantly reached out to Nathaniel, her mentor. She composed a message outlining her current strategy and asked for any last-minute advice. The wait for his response felt like an eternity, but finally, her phone buzzed. "Remember, Sarah," Nathaniel's message read, "it's about aligning your vision with their priorities. Frame your program as a solution to their challenges. Make them see that supporting you is not just beneficial for you, but for the district at large. You've got this." His words wrapped around her like a reassuring blanket. She absorbed each syllable, allowing his encouragement to bolster her confidence. She was ready to channel the fire within her, ready to turn that fear into fierce determination. As dawn broke, she prepared meticulously, dressing with intention and taking care to present herself with authority. Each movement felt purposeful. This was her moment. The meeting room beckoned like a battlefield, and she was not simply showing up. She was taking the field. Arriving at the district office, Sarah could feel her heart thrumming in her chest. The familiar faces of the administrators loomed ahead, their expressions inscrutable. She inhaled sharply, knowing this was the chance to secure her program's future. But as she entered the room, ready to present her case, a sharp disruption pulled her focus. A powerfully familiar scent flooded her senses, swirling memories she'd buried deep. Hearing her name spoken, she turned suddenly, startled to recognize him, a figure from her past, a man whose presence had left an indelible mark on her. Had her journey just taken an unexpected turn? Would this revelation shatter her confidence, or could it potentially become the ally she never anticipated? As their eyes locked, the tension in the room shifted, and the battle for her dream accelerated into a new dimension of complexity. For a moment, the world around Sarah blurred. It was only him and her. Caleb. Their eyes locked with an intensity that sent a shiver down her spine, stirring feelings she thought long buried beneath layers of time and ambition. She had come here to fight for her program, to stand firm in her vision, yet here he stood like a specter of her past, diluting her resolve. His surprise transformed into a confident smile, but inside, Sarah felt a chaotic whirlwind: surprise, confusion, and an insistent pulse of regret. She had worked tirelessly to distance herself from those emotions, to bury the memories of their shared history under the weight of her professional aspirations. Gathering herself, Sarah forced her gaze away, focusing on the meeting agenda in her hand, reminding herself of the stakes involved. The program's destiny was hanging in the balance. Yet, a part of her mind was racing, pondering how Caleb's sudden presence could impact her carefully constructed narrative. Would he be a distraction? A friend? Or worse, a reminder of vulnerabilities she thought she had conquered? As the meeting commenced, Sarah delivered her opening remarks with all the practiced poise she had cultivated during countless rehearsals. Each statistic rolled off her tongue, bolstered by the data she had so carefully curated. Yet her thoughts frequently flickered back to Caleb. His presence was a low hum in her consciousness, a reminder that even the most structured plans could be disrupted. When the floor opened for questions, Caleb raised his hand, cutting through the tension like a knife. "You mentioned specific challenges the program addresses, but could you elaborate on the long-term potential beyond initial implementation?" His voice, rich and commanding, resonated throughout the room. Did he have to make this harder? An inner voice screamed at her to dismiss his inquiry, to stick to her rehearsed presentation and avoid being sidetracked. Yet something within her shifted, she could feel the room's energy change. Instead of slipping into frustration, Sarah took a breath and recognized this was her chance to showcase the depth of her vision. "Thank you, Caleb," she said, refocusing her attention. "That's an excellent point. My program isn't just about immediate results, it's about creating a sustainable model that evolves with the needs of the community. For example, by incorporating feedback loops and flexible strategy adjustments, we can ensure ongoing relevance and effectiveness." A note of surprise flickered across Caleb's face, as though he had underestimated her depth of expertise. Encouraged, Sarah built upon her argument, weaving in examples from her research that illustrated successful adaptations over time. As her confidence surged, she spoke with clarity, her words resonating through the audience, awakening their interest, challenging their preconceived notions. The mind games began to fade as she regained her focus. He was no longer just a reminder of the past, he became a catalyst that pushed her to articulate her vision with newfound vigor. When questions arose, she embraced each one with a sense of spirited engagement, especially when the administrators, perhaps captivated by her insight, called her adeptness into question. But as the meeting wore on, she felt the air change around Caleb. His presence was no longer a quiet storm, it became a swirl of intrigue. What did he want? Why was he here? Each glance from him wrestled with her composure, subtly urging her to confront parts of herself she had long chosen to ignore. Finally, as the meeting wrapped up, she realized no one was paying attention to their sharing. Instead, heads turned towards the numbers she presented and the merit she built. Maybe it was enough to win them over, to root for her ambitions, but the moment of reprieve was short-lived as the meeting concluded, and before she could gather her thoughts, Caleb approached her, a friendly grin juxtaposed against her questions. "You've grown, Sarah," he said, his tone playful but sincere. "I didn't expect you to carry this kind of vision. We should catch up sometime." Her heart raced, unsure whether the warmth in his voice was genuine respect or a probing invitation to revisit tangled threads of the past. "Do you really think we should?" Sarah asked, feeling both exhilarated and apprehensive. Caleb leaned closer, his voice dropping. "You'd be surprised how much can change. Perhaps there's more to our story yet." As his words hung in the air, so too did the weight of opportunity mixed with uncertainty. This wasn't just about her program anymore, it became about confronting unresolved chapters of her life. Navigating these dual pressures ignited newfound determination. She had begun a journey towards professional validation, but now, it seemed, she would also need to confront the echoes of her past decisions in both dreams and desires that drove her forward. And as she stood, her heart pounding in a mix of ambition and apprehension, she wondered what paths awaited her, not just in the meeting aftermath, but also among the memories that seemed eager to resurface. The confrontation with Caleb could be more than just personal. It had the potential to reshape her professional trajectory as well. In that instant, Sarah realized she was facing not just one battle, but a convergence of conflicts, professional dreams intertwined with personal history, and she was ready to unearth the truth about herself. How would she navigate not only the next steps in her program but also the uncharted territory of her past? As Sarah sat across from Caleb, the chaotic mix of past and present intertwined before her. The aftermath of the meeting lingered in the air, and she knew that her interactive presentation had resonated with the decision-makers. The questions posed had been met with her newfound confidence, prompting nods of approval that reinforced her growing sense of authority. Yet, Caleb's presence ignited memories she had long buried. Once, they had been intertwined in ambition and uncertainty, capturing fleeting moments of joy amidst life's challenges. Now, he stood before her, a powerful figure from a time when aspirations felt intertwined with naivete. "Are you really ready to take this on, Sarah?" Caleb asked, his eyes glinting with curiosity. It was a simple question, but one that sent ripples through her mind. She had worked hard to earn this opportunity, established her credibility, and cultivated an action plan tailored to elevate student experiences. Yet now, standing poised between the past and the present, the weight of self-doubt resurfaced. "More than ever," she replied, her voice steadier than before. They shared a moment of reflective silence, the world around them dissolving into the background. "You've changed," he finally said, emphasizing the transformation he'd observed. "This new journey might just be the place for you to embrace who you've become." His words struck a chord deep within. Perhaps this encounter was not a mere distraction but an invitation to embody the strength she had cultivated through this journey. "Thank you," she offered, resolving to redirect the conversation. "But this moment isn't just about me, it's about the program advocating for opportunities that don't just serve me, but also the community." Caleb nodded thoughtfully, his expression expanding to one of focus and admiration. "Exactly. That's a vital perspective, and you're grasping it. It's not just about presenting information, it's about weaving a narrative that compels others to join the cause." Emboldened, Sarah seized the moment. "You know, this isn't solely about educational reform. It's also about addressing the systemic obstacles that hinder us from bringing change into our classrooms. Every initiative must bridge empathy and action." An earnest light flickered in Caleb's eyes, and as they delved deeper into insightful discussions about educational paradigms and societal impact, Sarah felt her ambition solidify. She knew the stakes of her endeavor were high, yet she was resolute. Navigating those complexities forged her authenticity. Their exchange culminated in the realization that they both had the potential to create ripples in the educational landscape. Caleb, once a figure of her past, had transformed into an informal ally, paralleling her journey towards self-discovery and professional fulfillment. The uncertainty lingering from their previous shared history was now overshadowed by a burgeoning respect, vibrant enthusiasm, and collective purpose. Weeks turned into months as Sarah diligently pushed forward with the pilot program. The meeting with the administrator supplied her with a burgeoning momentum, igniting renewed support among colleagues. Educative stakeholders rallied behind her plan, swayed by the eloquent presentations that wove lived experiences into statistical mandates. The more Sarah advocated for her objectives, the more her once muted voice made waves across the institution, resonating not just within classrooms but sparking conversations across the district. On the morning of the pilot program launch, Sarah stood in front of her classroom, a mix of anticipation and pride coursing through her veins. She gazed at the students who would directly benefit from her vision, her heart swelling with gratitude and resolve. In this moment, it became clear how far she had journeyed. As she surveyed her surroundings, the classroom filled with enthusiastic chatter, the realization hit her she had become a formidable leader. Her experiences, marriages of ambition and vulnerability, had forged an authentic presence that transcended her past. Conversations with Caleb had rekindled a passion not just in her educational mission but also in confronting the histories that shaped her. Later that week, an official acknowledgement arrived from the district office, celebrating the success of her program. They documented how her initiative had boosted student engagement and learning outcomes, spotlighting her as a voice to support broader educational reform efforts. The meeting that once sparked her uncertainty had transformed into a testament of recognition, applauding not only her professional acumen but also the personal growth she had undergone. This recognition elevated her confidence and fortified her place within the educational sphere. Embracing her journey proved to be a balancing act of holding onto her roots while diving deeply into her ambitions. The evolution she had undergone wasn't just about assuming a leadership role, it encapsulated her ability to turn vulnerability into a nuanced strength. Feeling a sense of accomplishment, Sarah realized that courage lived in embracing vulnerabilities and leveraging connections. No longer just a struggling single parent or a teacher trying to make ends meet, she had stepped into her power, a voice not just for her students, but a beacon for the potential transformation in education. In her heart, she knew the battle wasn't over. Challenges remained, but each hurdle was a path etched in resilience, reminding her of her capacity to effect change. It solidified a commitment to continue breaking barriers, advocating for her students, and defining her aspirations as limitless. And as she stood, surrounded by students who would now hold the keys to the new educational paradigm she'd helped create, a broad smile crested her face. The journey had been rugged, layered with growth and introspection, but she had arrived not merely at a destination, but shaped into her truest self. This pivotal milestone marked the beginning of a legacy, a testament to the power of perseverance, authenticity, and the sheer ability to rise from ordinary to extraordinary. Now, to anyone watching this heartwarming conclusion, take Sarah's journey to heart. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that could transform your perspectives. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show that these empowering stories matter. Comment your reactions and theories about Sarah's incredible journey and how it resonates with your own life. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this empowering conclusion and realize that they too can overcome their challenges. This is the moment to show your support and truly connect with stories that inspire change.